like to welcome everyone to today's show, Truth. Today's guest, again, we have Christopher Hoyer in the continuation of reading the book, When That Day Comes, Training for the Fight. Today, we're going to go over chapter 6 and try to roll into chapter 7 as well with the FNG. And Chris and I right now, before going live, are trying to convince Natalie to join us. It's a hard convincing trying to go, but
shouldn't be that hard, so he's only the editor, and finishing her own book probably by tomorrow. So, but
that's awesome.
A girl needs time to prepare.
Don't listen to that.
Yeah, that's the common theme.
Oh, I know.
So how long after, let's say tomorrow when it's ready, will it be released?
She's going to send it off to the publishing company, and then they'll send back a proof probably within about a week, something like that. If the proof comes back the way she wants, she'll send that back for approval, and then it'll be another
72 hours.
Yeah, a couple, 3 days, 4 days, maybe at the most, maybe plus time for shipping. So technically it's supposed to be out in like March of this year by her birthday, but now we're end of the year, which we're not going to talk about that. But
because you're so needy with your stuff.
See that? Yeah.
You're gonna have them side by side on the shelves?
Yeah, actually, yeah, we definitely are. Because we got a couple of places here in town that are selling mine, and as soon as we can get hers up and running, it's gonna be like I don't know, maybe put it like a pair of handcuffs between the two of them or something. So,
link them together.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting actually. Hers is gonna be probably. I already told her I'm gonna be pissed off when hers becomes a bestseller before mine. So,
well, the story behind it. I mean, both of it. Yours and hers. It needs to be out there.
Yeah, it's just truly amazing how we end up connecting, through our own different channels. But yeah, it's been pretty neat. So,
hence the book.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, she asked me that the other day for the first time in quite a while. If I had not met her, would it be still sitting on my laptop? And I'm thinking probably yeah. It would probably never have gone anywhere because I don't have the first clue how to take care of something like this. And then, she came on board, took it over, and then ran with it, which is now why she's getting like 80% of the proceeds. But whatever. So.
That's true.
So,
trying to keep it in house.
Yeah, I'm trying, but could be worse. So. Yeah, let me know when you're ready, man. I got the book all set to go, and hopefully I can see. That's the one. Yeah. Glad you got the new copy too, by the way. So.
Oh, I am too.
Yeah. So I need to think.
Where's your reading glasses at? Get the readers.
That's the problem getting old. So let me try to find it really quick. So. And I don't have them, so that's all right.
Glasses?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all the report writing through the years.
Yeah. The truth is, I can never write a police report, but I can write a book. So I think they're in my jacket. So. So yeah, that's it. Hey, look at that! All right, I'm gonna see if we can make this work. Are you guys laughing at me? It's gonna be you pretty soon too. So.
She's pretty good, man. I mean, she makes sure that her hand don't even get on screen.
I know. Yeah, and she's the brains behind the whole operation and everything else. So, okay, here we go.
Hey,
there she is.
There she is finally. So, all right, enough about her. Damn it. So, all right, let's go chapter 6 here. FNG. All right. On the outside, I projected nothing but confidence. On the inside, I was terrified. As I pulled up to the building and looked at the numbers, I knew I had gotten the address wrong. Part of the testing process after the regular academy was the agency-specific academy, post-academy. I failed the first test question. I knew I had guessed it wrong. Damn it. I transposed 2 numbers on the address to my assigned precinct. In those days, folks could get fired for such an infraction, and I was already on the razor's edge. Stupid reloads. I started my first day with a lost look on my face. I was immediately directed to the briefing room by the all-knowing desk aide. Inside the briefing room were my future squad mates, field training officer and sergeant. fucking new guy. I heard one of them say, is this guy going to make it past day 4? Those are the first words ever spoken to me or to or about me as an officer by another officer. It was followed by a lot of chuckling at my expense. Awkward. I found out that my FTO had a kid before me, his first booter, who quit on day 4 of training. This poor guy decided he could not go hands-on with bad guys. They tried to talk him out of quitting, but the decision had been made. It seemed kind of silly to me to go all through the training, including academy, and not give the job more time. I figured only the booter himself knew what he was prepared to do, so I absolutely respected the decision. Still do. So there I was in my first briefing. There was the usual meet and greets, a tour of the station, and the obligatory "this is what I expect" speech. I thought it went well. In fact, I remember thinking to myself, I will be the same way when I have the opportunity. Then when I gave my first ever answer to whatever question was being asked of me, it was naturally followed by a resounding "yes, sir." "Okay, sit down. Let's get something straight right now," my FTO said, less than impressed with my eagerness. "You made it. You are no longer in the academy, and as far as I'm concerned, we are partners now. No more of the sir shit. Got it?" "Yes, sir. I mean, okay then." My FTO handed me a set of keys and said, "Go gas up the car." He was testing me already, and I failed miserably. I hadn't paid attention to the fact that the key ring had a number imprinted on it, a number coinciding with the parking space the car was parked in. Duh. Took me 3 trips around the parking lot before I realized it. Most guys had trouble remembering their PIN number to the gas pumps. Not me. I had that dialed in. I may not be able to find the car, but I can sure pump some fuel. Next, it was time for gear setup and stocking said car. I did not care one bit about any of this admin stuff. I just wanted to hit the street. Preparation, whatever. Let's go. My haste to bypass proper preparation was quickly and appropriately extinguished. My first search as a sworn officer. "Hey, Rook, come search this guy." "Okay, no problem." "Oh yeah, you better double glove up." "I'm sorry, what?" Turned out our subject had decided to go swimming. No biggie, except for the fact that he was swimming in a pool he had no right to be swimming in. Apparently, he jumped the fence of an apartment complex and went skinny dipping. Great. Then he urinated all over his own clothes and put them back on. Oh my God, ew. You'd think for my sake he would at least jump back in the pool for a quick rinse, but no. Selfish bastard. Would 2 pairs of gloves be enough? First day jitters? Gone. So, yeah, that was my first day in the precinct. I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be awkward. So,
I just now caught on to the FNG, the fucking new guy. I just now caught on to that. That's crazy. I've read this 3-4 times over, and I just now caught on to the FNG part when you read it.
So, truth be told, when I started this thing, I had a whole bunch of different titles that were subsequently changed throughout for some better, more direct things, if you will. So that was one that was changed early on. A lot of them I didn't have titled at all. They were basically just, chapter after chapter. And then she came along and put her magic touch to it and made them more appropriate, I guess, if you want to use that word. So not that it really can be in this kind of a concept, but so.
But it all goes back into like the shock value aspect as well too. When you try to sugarcoat and kind of take away the intensity of it, it's kind of like that guy going through training and everything else too, like the military. The reason why everything is so dramatic initially is to kind of weed out the individuals that can't take it. But in a sense, the more it's why a lot of individuals enlist or go through the academy. They think it's because, again, seeing on TV and just thinking it is what it is until they really go see, some of the things that you're exposed to. Some individuals may not see it in their whole career. Some individuals are exposed to it almost on a daily basis, every other day at least, and things like that as well too. So
yeah, for sure. And you never know what your career is going to look like until you get neck deep in it, and then you start to realize that, holy cow, that's when a lot of guys start wondering, can I make it another 15 years? I don't know. Can't answer that really. So
then they get a shit magnet for a partner.
Oh my God, right? I know. Funny because there's so many guys that wanted to ride with me because of they thought they were going to get into some stuff, and sometimes they got more than they bargained for. So it's it was kind of cool sometimes, but then other times they're like, yeah, we're done, man. I'm not coming back anywhere near you. So, whatever.
So was like when you go inside different agencies and everything, with especially with you being able to have that clear mind as far as overhearing what others were saying about you and things like that. Are there things that you try to influence or try to reflect to some of the cadets, basically, as far as how to overcome their, I'm not going to say first day jitters, but first day jitters when they go out? Is there anything that you try to provide to them to kind of encourage them to kind of fight it through?
Usually I start with, if it's a group of like brand new kids, typically, usually the first thing I'll tell them is, man, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to be occupying those chairs, because so many people can't and won't do this job for a long list of reasons. They don't have the mental capacity, they don't have the physical capacity, maybe they just have one arm or whatever else, whatever it is. And how many of your friends that have tested and then didn't make it the first time and then quit? It's like, yeah, you can't do that. So obviously you guys are fighters and you made it through where you are. So you're in a privileged position to be here. And then don't forget that all that bullshit you went through to get hired on, all the bullshit to get through the academy, all the bullshit you're going through to get off FTO, when you finally start, getting your battle rhythm down and getting on the street and realizing that, all that street stuff that you're dealing with now is the easy part for the most part, because all the other stuff was the hard part, just getting here where you are. So I try to remind them of that. And then, the passion of why we do what we do. I was talking to a guy today and he asked me flat out, he goes, I don't really know why we do this. What do you think? I go, well, it's for the money, clearly, obviously, but in all reality, it's truly a calling. And I haven't really ever been able to answer that question thoroughly, other than it's a calling, because who's stupid enough to go put a badge and a gun on and go get paid to get shot at? Who does that? We do. And why? Because, clearly because we just think it's the greatest thing in the world, and it is. Until you get shot at, then you realize it actually kind of sucks. But when you survive it, God willing, then if you can get past it and keep going forward, you realize, man, you're here for a higher purpose. You're here for a very specific reason to, we can do the cliche of, help other people and make a difference and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's all true as well. But I think it goes much deeper than that. And it's something truly down in your soul that, very few people will ever understand until you're actually doing it, so.
And then you always have the naysayers, like the negative ones that, well, you signed up for it. Well, yeah, I did. But it's because nobody else will, and again, it does take that passion. It does take that, that drive to actually want to make a difference. There are going to be those that, want to chase the bad guy, drive as fast as they want to and stuff, but
yeah,
it's still a calling in that as well too, but it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I was talking to my class today and I said, hey man, you guys need to realize that, you don't need to create big fish stories. Okay. Don't go searching for stuff, because I guarantee it's going to land in your lap and you'll have all kinds of great stories throughout your career. If you go seeking it, you're going to get yourself jammed up, because now you're kind of a, you're bloodthirsty almost on some level, when you're out there and you turn yourself into a bully if you're out looking to get into fights all the time. And I tell them all the time, every time I start talking about use of force stuff, first things first, de-escalation, man. I'd much rather talk my way out of a fight than get into a fight. Don't get me wrong. When it happens, it's go time. It's awesome. It's a blast. The first time I got into a knockdown drag out, I was like, yeah, I'm getting paid for this. This is great. But I quickly realized how dangerous that it was, and this isn't the academy in a controlled environment with instructors standing over you. Now this is serious. You can get seriously injured if you don't pay attention to what's going on around you. So,
yeah, and that's where a lot of people, I'm not going to say fall blind, but when it becomes that non-controlled environment, you, Chris, and I, had that conversation about the unorthodox opposed to like what you're actually trained for with the orthodox, to where it's not that controlled environment. You have so many other different factors. You have, family, friends, or even just other bystanders of whoever the subject that you're confronting, try to join in and make it even worse. It's things that sometimes you can't plan for, but other times you can, ready yourself. And, that's where the training for the fight comes into it. There are certain things that you can be cognizant of and know how to pick your battles, basically. Or wait for the backup and things like that. So.
Well, of course, I take it to I go kind of two different directions. First, of course, it's a full on blown mindset. I mean, you've got to have the right mindset to be able to handle the fact that you're out there and you're doing stuff that's really dangerous. Fear comes later. You can't be afraid during, after you get done and you can shake it off. You're like, holy shit, man, that was really bad. Clearly the second half is going to be all about the tactical stuff. The guy that I work with, close, kind of a partner of mine, him and I are on two different levels of using weapon-mounted lights. He swears that in all his time in the Marine Corps, he never needed a weapon-mounted light. Me, I'm on the side of I think you absolutely have to have one. And we agree to disagree on the whole topic of it. But that's just one of those things where, just like you're talking about, I remember the very first time I'm rolling around on the ground with my partner and another guy, and I see what ended up being the guy's brother approaching us from the side. Luckily, I was kind of heads up. And as the guy's approaching us, getting ready to jump on my buddy, I stood up and put my gun light in his face. Bought me just enough time to, move off the X and get him out of harm's way, if you will, and that's one of those tiny little things that can happen 100 different times over and may not work the same way every time. But playing that what if game that you and I talk about on a regular basis, that's one of those, hey, what if this guy comes off your peripheral and you need to get him stopped? What's an easy way to do that? Weapon mounted light, really simple, so
you can't hit a target you can't see. And on top of that, even in, you having your tactical and going like this, you have zero hands free.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's a big factor in it. It frees up one of your hands as well too, because now you can see what you're doing. You can see your targets. You can see subjects. You can see everything else going on, and you have that free hand. Because what are you going to drop first? Are you going to drop the tactical light? Or are you going to drop your firearm, your sidearm?
Yeah.
You're sure the hell not going to drop your sidearm. So now you're just blind, in this situation. So it's
There's other chapters I'll talk about, weapon mounted lights and these kinds of things, and what I consider the usefulness of them. And some guys are like, yeah, I'll never do that. Which, hey, great. I'm not saying it's the Chris Hoyer way. It's a way. You take it to the next level, whatever that is. And I've got a buddy back in Phoenix. He's a huge expert flashlight guy. He can teach you all kinds of really neat shit. As far as I'm concerned, dark areas need light. And that's pretty much what it boils down to for me. And you take that to the next level, whatever it is, so. But anywho, what do you think? Ready for number 7 here?
Yes,
I think
sir.
this one's a little bit longer. So
Yes, it is.
all right. See if I can get through this thing. My reading tonight kind of sucks, by the way, but I'm working on it. So I should make Natalie read it actually. So
That would make for a good intro right there.
that would make for a great intro. I think we should double tag team her and make her do it. But
The actual editor and I'm not going to say author, but the editor and the one that put it all together, reading it in her words.
yeah, editor in chief is pretty much what it is here. Commander in chief, yeah. All right. Well, since it's my book, I guess I got to do the reading. So, but sometime at some point, if she doesn't read mine, it's going to be hers, and then I'm gonna be on the other side of the couch laughing at her like she's doing to me right now. So, okay. So, chapter 7 is called.
Well, one of the things too. I mean, real quick. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
but,
no, okay.
because one of the things too that is really kind of the way that I see it of why it's so important for her to join at least one of these broadcasts is because, as she was editing that, and a lot of the viewers don't know like the whole backstory behind it all.
Right.
But in the same sense, her as she's putting it in print for us, yeah, she's being able to read your words, but she's putting it in the sense for us. And, it'd be a great discussion to see what was going through her head as she was like reading for the first time. Like you said before, she just knew you was this guy just riding the motorcycles and just laid back guy. And then finally that first time actually reading through that, like, this is you or this is what you experienced, and that's going to be a good side to see like, what she experienced, what she's seen as she was actually reading through that and everything else too. And trying to put it into perspective to where didn't really soften the words, but still kind of drew us all in to have that true ride along. It's a read along, ride along.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. There's lots of things that she tells me all the time that she can't see me getting, my hands dirty that way. It just doesn't compute, because I'm still that kind of laid back, chill guy. And I was still, I mean, truth be told, I was that way in uniform all throughout my entire career. And until it was time to get dirty, I mean, I'm not talking about being a dirty cop. I'm just talking about when you got to get on the ground and roll around. And I tell the story of my food truck story where by the time we got done, I'm literally kicking this guy in the face. When I've gotten to the point where I'm kicking you in the face, things have gone really, really wrong. I mean, that's pretty much a worst case scenario, short of shooting somebody, of course. But she just can't picture that. She's like, I don't see that from you because I've never really shown that side, and nor do I really want to, because when that part of me comes out, it's a little bit scary, sometimes. And I'm like, sometimes I can't even believe it. I'm like, how did I survive 20 years being such a mellow-headed type of dude? Well, when they provoke you and they prompt you to want and get into fights with them and shit, it's like, well, you kind of asked for it, man. I'm sorry. I dust them off when I'm done and I'm picking up teeth off the ground and shit. But it's like, I didn't want to do this, but I can't. This is where the mental part comes in. I can't lose a fight, and that's not because I'm some kind of a rock star by any stretch of imagination. That's got nothing to do with it. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've gotten my ass kicked many times over, but I know that just because I got punched in the face is not going to be taking me out of the fight. You know what I mean? So I get that mindset, and I'm like, all right, well, when I got to turn it on, it's going to get turned on to the max that I have. And usually, well, every time so far, it's always worked. But of course, dealing with her, that might be different. She might just slap me once, I'll be done. So, but yeah, but I'll let her whenever she gets around to it. She says the next time, she's been kind of muttering under her breath over there that next time we do this, she'll get on board and help, I guess. So
we'll have her narrative.
Yeah, well, so that'll be probably a longer show. Maybe this weekend we can do it, and because she's got a lot to talk about, a lot more than I do, because her story is way more special than mine. So, but anywho, all right, ready to try again?
Yes, sir. I won't cut you off this time. My bad.
Nah, no worries, man. I like it. All right, back at it. All right, so chapter 7 is caught in the teeth of turmoil. All right, so an officer got into a nasty, deadly force confrontation, and we, as a recruit class, were lucky to hear it firsthand. Still wet behind the ears in the academy. I remember his story sounding a lot like a scene from Lethal Weapon. That's cool shit, yeah? Wait, that happened? That happened, and where? Broad daylight, and she tried to kill you? That shit doesn't really happen, does it? Am I right? No one dares mess with us. As a rookie, I shrugged stories like that off. I mean, we were cops. This is all about having fun, jumping fences, and thumping bad guys. Mind you, at this point, I was only 6 or 7 weeks into my field training. I was feeling on fire. Real life danger and turmoil wasn't a consideration. Not really. Better rethink that one, young grasshopper. This brings me to my first big lesson as an officer. It happened in 1999, and it led me down a path towards some pretty serious groundwork for mental preparedness for my future in police work. So the subtitle is My First Dogfight. It was an early morning in August. I was out on the hunt, the dog call. I was free, as in no FTO, 1 year and ready to take on the world. I was solo, bitches. Officer, we need help. How can I help you, fine sir? These dogs have been chasing us for 45 minutes. Dogs? Shit, I can handle this. No backup needed. Rabies animal control had already been called out, and they were not coming. I got this. I'm no stranger to dogs. I grew up with them. In my carpet days, one of my clients had a giant Rottie. This lady was petrified at the thought of her dog getting loose and tearing me into pieces. Long story short, the Rottie got loose and found me on the bedroom floor patching a hole. Supposedly, he hated men, and me, being a man, albeit an honest-to-goodness dog person, just assumed he wanted to play. And I was right. He found me, and the next thing I knew, he was rolling on the floor while I was slapping him around like we were old buddies. Suddenly, I heard a loud scream coming from the other side of the house. I cannot believe it, the lady said. How did you get him to play with you? "You got me, ma'am." He just approached me and seemed to be okay. It's probably because I was already on his level. That being said, I was fully confident in handling dogs on the street. After all, I was raised around dogs my whole life. This particular call didn't raise any red flags because it was nothing new to me, or so I thought. Did I mention I got this? Just as soon as I found the dog in question, I stepped out of my patrol vehicle. What I hadn't considered was that when female dogs are in heat, their male companions become quite territorial, and based on this rather large dog's bad mood and aggressive behavior, that seemed to be the case. I realized just about the time that the 150-pound pissed off Roddy sunk his teeth into my gun hand. He must have assumed I was after his woman. Dude, I ripped my hand away from the iron-jawed monster and spewed OC spray at his face. So you see, I had a backup plan of sorts. The ferocious dog was temporarily blinded, yet still moving toward me. He went headlong into the wheel of my car, which I'm sure just pissed him off even more. I imagine he was saying to himself, "Where are you at? Where you at, you skinny little milkbone?" It was a game of ring around the rosy, the two of us dancing around my car. It didn't take him long to get on my heels and find an opening for attack. In a virtual panic, I turned and took one shot from 12 feet away, hitting the giant, charging, snarling, and lunging beast. It was a headshot, one and done. Although I was 10 feet tall, solo, and ready to take on the world, panic began to set in as I radioed it in. 998, officer involved shooting. Yes, I was forced to shoot a dog. Putting out a 998 was not standard protocol for dispatching dogs or animals. Let's just say, even though I've been commended for my actions, I have yet to live that one down. Man, I never saw anyone draw that fast, a witness exclaimed. You're not kidding. That dog was hell-bent on killing me. Though not your typical call, there were a few hard lessons learned. You want to pause or anything? You want to jump in?
After you cover this, okay. Lesson 1, lesson 2.
You know me, man. I like to just keep on rambling, so you got to stop me. So,
yes, sir.
All right. So, lesson 1: calls can quickly go to shit. Lesson 2: even though it's a small event, I, as an officer, am in charge of the call, and it's up to me to put a stop to it. Yeah, it was just a dog, no biggie. Am I right? Right. However, it was still real life, real danger, and there was a very real syringe at the emergency room to clean out the bite wound, and of course, the very real rabies shot. Thanks again to the nurse who gouged me with the giant needle. Write me a ticket, will you? I never even met you before. And geez, that's kind of what I was thinking when she was freaking digging out. I'm like, okay, this really kind of hurts. Leave me alone. So that hurt worse than a dog bite. So,
well, on top of that, it being your shooting hand as well, too.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, it totally was. Yeah. So, and after I got done, I didn't even realize I had freaking blood all down the side of my holster, my gun, everything else. You know, I mean, I still got the scar. You can't see it here, but that was 1999, and I still got the tooth mark in my hand. It's kind of crazy, but so in all seriousness, how bad could this dog call have been? Well, imagine a mom running with her baby stroller, the little kids playing in the park where it all began, or the rabies animal control officer with a snare and no gun. I shudder to think. Even with the plan in place, I was far behind the curve. Despite the somewhat successful outcome, I never expected this, which brings me to the final lesson. Lesson 3. It is best to plan for the unknown because you never know what fight awaits you next. Oh, yeah. As if the dog bite wasn't bad enough, the dog's owner filed a complaint against me, threatening to sue. The complaint sounded a little like something like, my dog is a champion breeder, he does the laundry, he drives the kids to school, and your officer murdered him in cold blood. Okay, sir, but you're looking at a felony for aggravated assault on a police officer, plus public endangerment, another bookable offense. Okay, then never mind, the dog owner said, backing down. Yeah, I thought so. So that's
that's a perfect scenario though, because again, going back to, I mean, you and I have spoken about this 100 times over in regard to, you know, becoming lackadaisical in our careers. You know, just thinking that, oh, it's just another one of these calls, and especially with animals. You know, not just even just dogs, but animals are so unpredictable. You know, it kind of falls into that category, like you and I have discussed multiple times in regard to something being unorthodox, to where, you know, you don't know the dog's behavior, and then you're still trying to be cognizant of the surroundings as far as, you know, the dog owner, if they do have kids, things like that, that could really make the situation bad. You know, if that dog's being aggressive and then one of the, you know, the kids come over to try to, you know, control the said animal, it could just make things, you know, completely sideways.
Yeah.
And it's, and you know, you said it perfect too, is like, you know, sometimes we have to learn lessons like this by experience. But in the same sense, it's one of the blessings that, you know, you have been through certain things like this, that, you know, some individuals may laugh at it like, oh, it's just a dog case and things like that. But, it's the having to put a dog down, especially if somebody themselves are like a dog lover. Are you going to have what it takes? Kind of like what we spoke about before about, the gentleman that said he knew that he would never draw a firearm in his whole career.
Right.
To where, if somebody that, excuse me, that, has that passion towards animals, even though they're tearing you apart, are you going to be able to say, hey, I have to make this, unfortunate decision?
Yeah.
And that's a big, big, big play in, training officers where, it's questions like that, even though it's a checkbox on the application, hey, if a situation arises, will you draw a firearm and shoot another human being? Yes. It's a checkbox, and we're going to say yes just because we know it's going to be a part of their decision in bringing us on or not. But in the same sense, in reality, would you be able to defend yourself against a dog and draw a firearm, or would you try to do anything else and just, ultimately can take your life? Because especially if you go to the ground and they hit jugular or anything else like that, I mean, there's so many different scenarios that, ends up to where it was your life lost rather than the dog's. I'm not going to say that, one's greater than the other, but, just like the dotted line that we sign our names on, we're putting our lives before, anybody else, so.
Well, I'll tell you, man, of all the stuff I've been involved with, killing an innocent animal was by far worse than any other person I've had to shoot. Because
I like how you use that word innocent, but it wasn't an innocent animal, and that's where it sucks talking about it like this. But in reality, if an animal is attacking me, that is no longer an innocent animal.
Well, I'll
unless
tell
I was provoking it, like smacking it in the head with a newspaper or something like that, but so.
Well, I'll tell you why I say it that way. Only because, like I mentioned earlier on, he's protecting his woman, So he's just saying, "Hey, dude, you're on my turf, man. You need to back off," kind of a thing. And because I mean, I didn't put this part in the book, but she seemed fine. So there were two dogs out there, and when I went to go touch her, she seemed perfectly friendly, and this dude came out of nowhere and lashed onto my gun hand. So that's where I was like, well, okay, now I need to make a decision, which I did have a plan in place, had my pepper spray ready, and that pissed him off even more. And I went around. So I go around the passenger side of my car, basically parked in the curb lane. I go around the front of the car. She's probably about 10 yards or so onto the grass, and I go make contact with her. The other one I don't even know where he was. He came out of nowhere. And again, like I said, he got my gun hand. So I ripped my hand out of his freaking jaw. I freaking hosed him with probably the entire can of pepper spray, which, thinking about it now, it's kind of weird. I don't remember where that can ever ended up. I never went back for it. So it's probably still laying there 20 some odd years later. But then I swear I just backed up, and then he basically made a beeline and started charging straight at me. So that was one of those things where I talk a lot about footwork. And I had trained a lot for this, even though I only had a year on. I had trained for a lot of footwork for just this kind of a scenario, as it turned out, which of course you never know. And when I got right pretty much to the edge of my car, I just freaking moved at last second. And I swear, he went freaking headlong right into my car and actually hit the ground, got back up within probably 2 seconds. By that time, I moved around the front of my car, and I'm backing up. And by the time I got I'm not kidding, about 12 feet behind my car, he was pretty much right at my back fender, and he was in a full sprint. He was down, on all fours, basically lunging, getting ready to freaking launch on top of me from that far away. And it wasn't one of those things where, okay, when the target turns, raise and fire 2 rounds and, sight picture and smooth trigger press and all that shit. It was more like, I pulled my gun out of my holster so fast and fired off a round before I even knew what it was. Just miraculously, lucky shot, got him dead center between the eyes. And it sucked because I hated it, because it looked exactly like this. He's like mid-step, and he had his front paw forward, and he just dropped over like this, and he was dead. I'm like, fuck. I still feel guilty about that to this day, But it was either, he was clearly going to jump on top of me, and then what am I going to do after that? Once he gets a hold of my throat, it's probably going to be game over. Even if I do have a gun, I can, maybe try to crank some rounds into his belly. That might stop him. But at that point in time, 150-pound Roddy, and I was only graduated. You guys heard the last story, 140 pounds soaking wet. So it was going to be a big challenge for me. So
But on top of that as well, too, I mean, because it's, females can become just as aggressive as well in that situation,
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you could have been battling the male, the female could have came over just as much, I mean, it's you know, realistically, when you look at like fighting dogs, some of the most successful fighting dogs are actually some of the female dogs of, specific breeds,
Really.
So,
Didn't know that. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe the gunshot freaked her out. She took off. I never saw her again. And the truth of the matter was, all it ended up being was a neighbor that was supposed to be watching this guy's dogs, and they weren't doing their job, and they both got out. And these guys were trying to do some work on one side of the road for like 45 minutes. Like dogs kept chasing them back to their truck, and when I showed up, these guys were sitting on the roof of their truck. I'm like, well, that doesn't look right. So, and of course, me being the freaking resident shit magnet, I was right there when the call came out, and they're like, "Hey, we got this thing," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm on scene already. Boom, here we go."
I like
And
dogs.
again, being probably somewhat complacent, probably somewhat 10 feet tall, somewhat now free and solo, I can handle anything kind of a thing, which is good, which is what you want, except for the complacency part. The complacency part came in for me because I knew I could handle dogs because I wasn't afraid of them. Never had any bad experiences with them. I was always good to go. It wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden things go completely the opposite direction that I ever expected. I'm like, wow. But clearly I took a lot of lessons away from that whole thing. It's like, wow, yeah, it was just a dog, but I mean, look how quickly things went to shit. I mean, like really quick. So,
That's important as well, too. I mean, because again, it's going on just because you're comfortable with certain situations, it's like with individuals that are, traffic cops their whole career. They're complacent, they're comfortable with doing, kind of like, the beginning stories about, you having that choice to take that DUI or, but, some individuals are more comfortable with doing certain things like that. And it's like because it's normal to them. But what happens when that normal becomes the unnormal?
right.
Are you going to be ready for that? And it's again, going back to the whole complacency aspect of everything where, individuals even being ready for the normal to be the unnormal.
Yeah. And that's where, I mean, I talk about it so many times over, so many things that saved my life about that what if game, and I hadn't really gotten to that point yet with my career where I was really practicing that on a regular basis. I kind of had it in the back of my mind. But again, that's one of those scenarios that, if you look at the totality of the circumstances of what happened there, I pretty much did everything I could do. And yeah, it came out successful, but that could easily have gone the other way. I mean, I could have tripped. I could have given, because I backed out in the middle of the freaking road. Cars, luckily it was 6:00 in the morning on a Saturday, or 6:30, whatever time it was. So luckily there wasn't a whole lot of traffic, but I wasn't thinking about that shit. All I was thinking was, I'm going to get freaking killed. This dog's going to kill me, So it went straight into survival mode. Yeah, again, just a dog, but if you've ever been bit by a 150-pound Rottweiler in your hand, that shit doesn't feel good. I was like, that kind of hurts, And that's one of those things where the fear came later. The fear and the pain, as soon as I got done, was like, oh, I'm fucking bleeding all over everything, kind of a thing, And it was kind of funny because, my boss showed up, and then she like commanded my one of my buddies in my squad to transport me to the hospital. And I'm like, all right, I don't think we need all this. Wrap up my hand, and then I'll just drive myself. She's like, no, we're not doing that. And they drove me to the hospital. And then, of course, when I get back to the precinct, I've got no bullshit. I've got a booking slip filled out with all the dog's information on it. And I'm like, you guys are a bunch of assholes. So, which, of course, was their way of saying, we're glad you're okay. But still, I was like, all right, freaking cop.
Well, calling out the 998 in the first place, you know what I mean, was kind of like oh shit, we need to get here, and it's like, but anyway, so it's.
Well, I will tell you,
I can imagine those stories.
There is no stranger feeling in the world, especially when you're brand new and you don't know any better. When you're standing in the middle of a street in a neighborhood and you fire your gun, that's something really, really weird. It really, truly was. I think that was part of the panic mode where I went into, and I'm like, okay, I fired the gun multiple times on the range and this kind of shit, no big deal. But when you've got cars and people all around you, and it's a completely uncontrolled environment, and you're firing off your weapon, dude, that changes everything. It changes completely everything about what your mindset is. I'm like, holy shit, what do I do? 998.
On top of that as well, too, you have to take into consideration, one of the things like being cognizant of the situation, even with dog owners, as soon as someone hears discharge of firearm, they themselves can also go into that panic mode, or also go into retaliation mode, or go in. There's so many scenarios that could play out from that. Like, man, you just killed my dog and just, retaliate on you. So now, by you defending your life, you put your life in jeopardy, so there's just so many things that.
Well, I mean, I didn't mention that in the part of the story, but the homeowner was on vacation, so he didn't even know about this for a couple of days. So luckily he wasn't on the scene, because I could definitely see, because being a huge dog lover myself, somebody did that to one of my dogs, I'd have freaking lost my mind. But clearly, in the defense of your own life of a human, sorry, humans got to come first, man. I mean, I love dogs, but there's plenty of people that I'd rather freaking have put in the ground than an animal. But still, I mean, in all reality, it just can't be that way, So yeah, that's my dog story. So, but that was the beginning of, that training for the fight kind of thing, where it starts escalating. And I'm like, okay. And when I look back on it, because I had 2 or 3 other incidents where it was close, same exact scenario almost, where it was almost a dog, almost a dog, almost a dog, and then it was a dog, and then it was almost a bad guy, almost a bad guy, and then it was a bad guy, and then clearly, escalated to the rifle, and then ended with the rifle gunfight. So I mean, I pretty much stair-stepped all the way through my career, and the only thing left for me was, I'm going to get shot myself, and I'm like, yep, time to call it quits. So that's when I left, pretty much.
But I mean, one of the most important aspects of it all, though, is the fact that you're able to take away those 3 lessons from it. I mean, I'm sure there's probably more than just those 3 lessons, but you being able to pinpoint 3 main lessons, because now that just gave you ammunition on training the next individual. Again, the complacency that we find in our careers and things like that, where you're going to have the readiness for moments like this. Oh, it's just a dog. Well, sometimes it's not just a dog. What if you're going to where individuals are running like one of those fight rings or something? I mean, there's so many different scenarios. Are you going to be able to do what you have to do in this scenario? And a lot of people, they're going to tell you yes, just like they check that box on the application, but not many individuals will be able to do what it took to. Because let's just say that dog turned on the people watching it or anybody else. It could have went so many different ways. Especially after having no sea spray in his face. It's like so.
Well, I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, just a dog, but obviously it went bad very, very quickly. And you just never know what it's gonna turn into. And I think, and I say this jokingly all the time, that any clown can pull the trigger. I mean, that was the easy part, pulling the trigger. But can you move on from that after a traumatic incident like that? And it's not just because you took the life of an animal, but everything else that factors into that whole thing. It's like, the reverse what if game. Well, what if I didn't shoot the dog? What could have happened? What if he had gotten away and did go attack that mom with her baby stroller or whatever else? Your mind starts working overtime and playing all these little tricks on you and making you question yourself and your abilities and your tactics and everything else. And you just got to realize, it's like, look, man, yeah, you made the decision to respond to that call, but you didn't make the decision to have to respond the way you did. They set that up for you. You took care of business. If you have that kind of a mindset, I was telling the guys that today in one of my classes, it's like, look, man, everything that we do, more often than not, especially for use of force incidents, we're behind the curve 100% of the time. So the things that you need to know to take care of business. You deal with the hard part of the aftermath of it. So.
And the dealing with is the part that nobody can really grasp. I mean, you can replace a paper target you just shot 5 times with another paper target. Mm-hmm. You can't replace a life you just took with another life, and that's just that's the part that even if someone does live and you had a fire on another human being, that's enough to bring some people down.
Well,
and animals and stuff. It's
kind of funny you say that in some level, because I was talking to. I keep referring back to my class. I have a couple guys in my class today, and I was explaining about firearm stuff and letting them know, it's like, look, you guys aren't armed. They want to be armed soon. They're security guards for this particular class I was teaching today, and they're like, yeah, man, I want to get a gun. I want to be armed. I'm like, you need to realize that the shit you see on TV, Lethal Weapon, like I mentioned earlier, that's not reality. And I said, this whole freaking shoot them in the leg, shoot the knife out of their hand, all this bullshit, it does not happen. If you get lucky, yeah, every once in a while, yeah, it'll happen. Extremely unlikely it's going to happen that way. You have to have the mindset that if you have made that decision to pull your firearm out of your holster with intent to use it, and then you have come up on target and decided to fire, you're not shooting to wound this guy. You are shooting to kill this person. I mean, that's just a fact. You need to realize that now before you pull the trigger and end up taking a life, because if you haven't figured that out beforehand, you're going to be even further behind the curve when you realize that, holy shit, I was trained to shoot. I didn't realize I was trained to kill, and I hate using that terminology, but it's a fact, and again, if you're put in that kind of a situation where you're forced to use your weapon, they made that decision for you. Hey, you know what? You knew what you were doing. I'm not going to apologize for that, because I'm walking home, and I'm going to go back to my family, or I can be in court talking about it. But if I'm dead, it's not going to be that way. So,
well, on top of that as well, too, if you have a subject, and depending on area, if there's other individuals that ultimately, could lose their lives because said subject was not put down. People get on me all the time when I use that phrase "put down," but I mean it's what it is. What it is. You have to put somebody down. You have to put them down. Period. And just like in the academy, it's trained to shoot torso. I mean, you and I have covered this before, and the reason why is because, like you just said, it's the, you might have that one look of the draw chance to where you do shoot. You have a sniper somewhere that shoots the the firearm or the knife out of somebody's hand, but some moving parts. You're not going to do it. The legs, the arms. Unless the sniper's backing you up and things like that. But when it's just you drawing firearm, it's torso, because it's the most still direct shot that you're going to get. And again, that's why the paper targets are torsos.
Yeah. And I take it to the next level when I talk about stuff that I never even dawned on me until years and years later. That fortunately I got exceptionally lucky with most of my critical incident, except for losing Dave, of course. But these things don't happen. I mean, they happen to me because I'm the freaking shit magnet times 10. But most of the time, it's not going to be a situation where everything is perfect in your world. It's going to be the end of your shift. You just chase this guy over like 5 fences. You just got the phone with your wife and she's pissed off at you because you're whatever. Your daughter just got into a car accident and you're thinking about that. Your boss won't let you leave. It's the end of your shift and you haven't eaten all day long. All these other things that is keeping you from thinking about what you're supposed to be doing at work. And then you're faced with a critical incident. It's like, oh shit. So I'm already behind the curve based on the critical incident. Now I got to factor in all this other shit too. And I'm even further behind the curve. And now you've got to perform at the top level, which is going to be, if you're lucky and you train really hard, probably maximum. Like in my case, I consider myself probably somewhere around 85% for my last one. And believe me when I tell you, man, I trained hard. I trained freaking harder, probably than anybody else that I know. And I still fell way behind the curve. And if you're not even at that level, at best, you're probably going to be at about 70%. Statistically speaking, of course, I mean, everybody, trains differently. They get lucky. I mean, it could be one of a million things, I mean, you could be just lights out and just freaking get lucky and freaking hit the guy with one shot and he's done. But that shit doesn't happen to me.
Well, there's so many different things that, a lot of people don't take into consideration. Fatigue. Some officers working the 12, 15-hour days, sometimes pulling doubles. And I mean, the fatigue, and then, everything just dragging along. Then all of a sudden it is that critical incident, or you can be ready for that. And then also it goes back to the, who's really enlisting because of the passion to actually make a difference, who's enlisting for their own, selfish reasons, or because they, have ulterior motives outside of really making that difference. And then, they hear the call across the radio, dispatch is trying to find someone to respond to said critical incident, and they decide not to go there, and it's, I'm handling this over here when they're probably at the donut shop. I hate saying it like that, but realistically, I mean, some law enforcement agencies, the officers within those agencies do have that discretion to hear dispatch and just kind of just let it blow past and ignore it. You know what I mean? And that's a shame, because then it does put somebody that otherwise shouldn't be on that call, that may be fatigued, or that just shouldn't be on that call, handling that call. So it's so many different factors that
it's absolutely endless. I mean, you heard the story 100 times, I mean, 30 minutes for the gunfight of my life, I'm impounding weed at the station. Next thing you know, I'm fighting for my life. It's like, man, who knew? Same thing, end of shift. I mean, it was 2:30 when I got out, when I got the call, secured at 4, and of course my dumb ass was like, yeah, it's 2:30. I still got time to get into something. Okay. So just,
But it's there's always the two ways to look at it. But again, how many more lives would have been lost that day? Unfortunately, Dave lost his, but if you didn't make the decision to be a part of that critical incident,
yeah,
and if you weren't able to put that guy down,
yeah,
period, how many other innocents would have been lost rather than just having to put him down.
yeah.
And
believe me, I've struggled with that for years now. It's been coming up on 6 years since that thing happened, and what I've taken a lot of things away from that. Clearly, I mean, all kinds of different things. But one of the things I took away from that was there's obviously a reason why I was there, and a reason why I survived it. When Dave took 2 out of 3 rounds and was killed, I took 0 out of 3 rounds and survived.
But I mean, it's not like you weren't being fired at, though. It's not like there wasn't like three inches of, not 3 foot from your head. I mean, it's not like you weren't in danger yourself, though. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
You do downplay it a lot, man. But I mean, it's the reality is that you were just as much danger as Dave himself, being close range, opposed to your distance. But I mean, you did what you had to do, and it's a blessing that you did what you did, and made the decision to do what you did.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is sometimes I forget to give other guys the credit for what they did out there as well, because as selfish as it was, with everything else going on around that whole situation, for me it was my gunfight for what I had to do, and I couldn't really be focusing on everybody else and what they were doing, and so sometimes I fail to recognize that, man, you guys were all out there being freaking heroes, and we're all freaking scared to death, and we're all terrified of what just happened. And I've got another guy, at least one guy that I know of behind me that was taking those same 3 rounds, and the sergeant that was running the scene out there, Joe, he was standing down range of Dave as well. He took those 3 rounds that Dave took as well. Dave just happened to catch the 2 out of 3 that he was getting shot at. It's like, fuck, man. So you don't really ever know. So. So I'm here for a reason, I guess, and hopefully somebody takes something away from what I say and takes it to the next level, or says, yeah, you're full of shit, and goes another direction, which is okay too. I say that all the time. I try to make it clear that, hey man, yes, I survived my critical incident the way that I did. You're going to survive yours another whole kind of a different way. And
that's the funny parts of it, though, is that those guys that yeah right. All of a sudden that moment comes up. First thing that they're going to be playing in their head is, I remember that Officer Hoyer was telling me about that. You tried to warn me about this shit.
And I really hope that it's the good side of things. Like, yeah, you can kind of, I mean, God bless Dave, I love him still, clearly, but there's things you just kind of have to take away in some sort of humor. I hope it's that side of things that you realize that, holy shit, man, that was really bad. Like, I joke about when I started first taking those rounds, the first thing I want to do is drop my shit and run. And I'm like, because I was scared to death. But, clearly you can't do that. I mean, I could have, but I would have never lived that one down either. But things you just got to take away from it and realize that, on some level, you don't really have much say so in whatever happens, anyways. Getting into the spiritual side of things, but I'm not gonna touch on that now. I will when we start getting deeper into the book a little bit, but.
But I mean, it's the conversation that needs to be had, though, because again, it's going to be that cadet sitting in there that thinks they're Superman, and then it's you have that same guy that says, I'm not going to draw I know I'll never have to draw my firearm. Well, that critical incident right there could have went real bad if that said individual was in place of you.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there locked up, frozen, not knowing what to do, or, does run for his life, and, how many other individuals would have been put down, period.
True.
I mean, that's the reality of it. So,
well, speaking of the happy side of things, we're all praying. I never met the kid, but I got a kid in Phoenix, 22 years old, Tyler.
Yeah, he got put in. He was in the hospital. I mean, because he was in a coma.
Yeah,
I think he was in a coma. But
Well, I heard today from Natalie that he actually smiled today. So still obviously clearly laying in his hospital bed, but he actually smiled. We don't know if that was a reaction to whatever, or he's actually consciously being able to do it now. But man, that's huge. This kid took, I think he took 8 rounds. I'm not sure how many to the face or to the head. Apparently, he had one lodge in his spine too. You know, it's like, and here we are, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and now I know he opened his eyes the other day, and then today he smiled. So man, God bless him, man. So I'd like to.
That's because he heard the beep, beep, beep in the background. He's like, I'm alive.
Yeah, could very well be, man. So it's way late in the show, and I know I missed the opportunity to do it early on, but I'd love to dedicate this episode to him if we can, man, because he definitely deserves it. So and God bless his family and the wife and all the guys that are pulling for him. I know Nat and I've been praying for him forever, since we heard about it. And I just hate those calls when I wake up to my phone. It's 3:00 in the morning, and I got messages saying, "Hey, we got this incident that happened." I'm like, oh man, it's happened over my career. I mean, literally for the last 20 years, so 23.
Yeah. So I get a lot of lashback because it's incidences like that I like talking about, because for some forsaken reason, the media doesn't like to, show that. Now, if it would have went the other way, if Tyler would have put somebody else down, it would have been like, oh my, this officer just, it's fucking disgusting. Excuse my language, but it's,
but luckily, some of the media is actually on our side. And one of our, I can't remember if he's a city council member or whatever. Sal, yeah. We do have a few handful of guys that are actually on our side that do support us out there. Well, I shouldn't say us because I'm not part of that organization anymore. Live in another whole state, but I do recognize that there are people out there that that do the proper news, and they do cover the barbecues and the funerals and all these kinds of things in support of, not just because if it bleeds it leads and that kind of shit, because I've been on the wrong side of that as well. I got accused of executing a Mexican national. I'm like, well, first of all, I didn't execute the guy. He pulled a gun on me. Second of all, the guy's Aryan Brotherhood. I'm pretty sure he's not a Mexican national, but that's what it was. 3 days of that shit on the freaking 5 o'clock news every day for 3 days, and they're showing my picture all over the freaking TV, and I'm like, thanks a lot, guys. First of all, you don't know your facts, and now you're making up shit because you don't really know the truth. So I was like, whatever. Right, I'm off my soapbox now.
That's awesome. So, it's factors like that though. That again, I keep going back to the cadets because that's why I love what you do, because they're the ones that need to hear this. I mean, the veterans need to hear it as well too, because especially those on their high horse thinking that they've seen it all and they've done it all and they know it all. The IKEAs of the world, I know everything, asshole. But they really do need to have that real life put in there, real scenarios brought to them, and this is what it is. How's that going to affect? Because again, that drawback to where, if all it is just lashback against law enforcement, military, or anybody else, how hesitant is the already hesitant individual going to be when it comes to confronting a subject? Is it going to be that, I don't want to be that guy on the news because I had to put this guy down, or, act to save my life or others people's lives, so it plays a big role in, individuals fulfilling their careers and, upholding their duties every day. So,
yeah. And I mean, truth be told, in all fairness, it is very difficult to make that decision. And I was telling people all the time, it's the biggest decision you're ever going to make in your life in the shortest amount of time to pull that trigger. But if you remember why you're doing this to begin with, and then you remember that, it's not your decision by any stretch of imagination. I mean, yeah, you're out there with your weapons and stuff like that, but this guy made that decision. And you're probably saving a life by taking a life, be it your own or somebody else's or whatever. I know another agency right out there in the West Valley, kid, same thing. I talked to him. We were actually at his briefing, gave my long presentation, my PowerPoint that I do, and told him, hey, these are the things you're going to be probably facing if you ever have to. And sure enough, man, patrol rifle kill, put the guy down, had to shoot the guy in the back, but fully justified, And so I'm waiting for that phone call that he's going to say, hey, man, either help me or you were right, or, oh my God, now I understand. And so I love talking to the rookies and letting them know, hey, man, this is what you could potentially be facing. I love talking to the vets going, I don't care how much of a rock star you are or you were at some point in time, all that stuff that you saw, if you haven't already dealt with it or you're just in denial, it's going to catch up to you. I promise you that it will. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Just recognize it and just take it on board for what it is. So.
Yes, sir. It's always the ones that have something to say about the taking a life that view the public executions.
Yeah. So be it. I wish it was back in the old days, like whatchamacallit there, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, when the guy's carrying his own coffin down the street, and then next he's in it. It's like, if we could do that, man, things would be a little less chaotic, I would think. But clearly we can't do that because, God forbid, But, it's a crazy world. I'm not going to get into politics. Of course, we don't have time, and I don't even want to talk about it because I'm in a pretty good mood. So I want to stay there.
I'm trying to stay in a good mood.
Yeah. So
we'll cover it later because that is important as well, though, too, because a lot of that does affect the upholding of one's position and role and everything else too. So we try to ignore it because some of it is just a bunch of BS that makes all of us unhappy. Hence, you not want to talk about it so you can stay in a good mood. But there's so many different things that do affect somebody really upholding the responsibilities, duties, and everything else. Regardless of what first responder. Look at the nurses being shunned because of this vac. I don't want to get into this. So.
Well, I'll tell you. I know it's completely unfair of me to sit here on my side of the fence, fat, dumb, and happy, retired, talking about, well, this is how it's supposed to be when these guys are still out there fighting the fight. Well, what the fuck? You haven't been on the street in over 3 years, and now you're telling me how to conduct myself. I'm not trying to do that at all. Because believe me when I tell you, I had to fight my battles out there as well. And I never had to deal with the climate that they're dealing with today ever in my career, because it was pretty much mostly positive on our side. Now it's kind of flipped, and I hate it. I can't stand the way that it's going. And I'm not going to even try to lie and say I understand it because I flat out don't. I don't understand what it's like to be that much, hatred toward us, and, I got to commend the guys. God bless them. The guys that are like, I don't do this for them. I'm doing this for me, for my community, for my family. Those are the guys that are going to shine. They're the ones that are going to make it through their careers. The guys that fold, whatever their personal reasons are, they decide this isn't for them anymore. Hey, God bless them. You tried it out. It didn't work for you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say, well, you should be doing it anyways because Chris Hoyer says, you need to stick it out, man. You signed that dotted line. Fucking bullshit, because I'm not fighting that fight. And I can't say that, I wouldn't be in the exact same boat because when I had, going off another soapbox here, I think I had like 13 years on or something, and I got completely burned out, and I was ready to call it quits. And I'm like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Lost the love for it. Somehow found my love again, got rallied, and got back into it. It was great. But some guys get to that point, and they're done. They're like, yeah, this was great for a long time, but now I can't do it anymore. And I can't blame guys for doing that,
Well, sometimes by them stepping out, ultimately they're saving lives, because if they're not, willing or able to fulfill their duties, responsibilities, and things like that, ultimately, if it causes that hesitation, ultimately it could jeopardize themselves, another brother, sister, right. Civilians, and all that other stuff as well too. So
as well as I do, man. If you're already saying you're not willing to pull your gun, you're not willing to do these kinds of things, I'll say it, and it's going to be completely rude. And I'm going to probably get a lot of fuck yous on the thing here, but it's if you're not willing to do that, don't fucking back me up. Don't put your uniform on. Stay home. If you're not willing to perform the duties that you signed up for, go do something else. Take a break. Go be a meter maid or something for a little while, or whatever else you got to do.
Parking police.
Something that's less confrontational, less enforcement related, or whatever it is. That's exactly what I did, and I can say it that way because I got forced off the street because I just wasn't mentally fit anymore to be out there, and that wasn't really my choice. But if you already know that that's where you are, dude, take a step back. Seriously, just go off and do something else for a while. Burn off all your sick time and your leave time or whatever you got, and go fishing for a while or whatever. Try to search out and figure out why you started doing this to begin with. And if you can get back into it, cool. If you can't, dude, freaking leave, go someplace else. And it's again, that's easy for me to say on my side of the fence. Oh yeah, you know everything, right? No, I don't. I don't know jack shit, but I do know enough to realize that when you're not fit, you should be doing it. So,
any individual that's been through what you've been through, I mean, it's pretty safe to say you kind of know a thing or two.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I was just one of those guys. I just, I was too stupid to say no. I'm like, yeah, cool, bad guy, let's go. It's like shiny squirrel thing, So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, no matter what you're looking at, first responder community right now, even the fire department, nurses, everybody else that's out there on the front line, they're getting a bad rap, man, across the board, and I hate it. I really wish I could save the world, but I just don't know what we're gonna do about it. Just let it right itself. It will eventually. It's gonna take a while. I know it's gonna come back around because my son, he's talking about joining up with my old agency, and he's worried about the negative backlash and everything else going on. I said, dude, everything's gonna right itself over time, and by the time you get out there and you're out there doing your thing, you're going to be so inundated with all the paperwork and all the newness, everything going on. You're not even going to be paying attention to that stuff. By the time you're solo and competent, this stuff's going to probably start to fizzle out, and then hopefully we'll have a new person, at the top of the food chain here, and then everything will settle back down to where it's supposed to be. But that's, again, I'm not getting into politics ish, but
Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for tonight, bro. So,
all right, I'm just trying to. I seen this comment. I can't even Can you see the comment there from this? I can't even see the name or anyway. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna make that one visible. But anyway, so. But before we end, I do want to say prayers for the Tyler Moldavin. I don't want to mispronounce that and everything else too. I know he's still in critical condition and things like that. I got prayers for the family and that he pulls out of the critical condition and things like that, and recoups from that. I mean, it's a blessing he is still alive after the rounds that he took and everything. So it's
a miracle. Nothing short of a miracle. So,
yes, sir.
I would love nothing more than to have a conversation with that kid and just let him know how much of a freaking rock star he is and how much we love him. Because he is. He's the version of me that, got shot, where I did that exact same thing so many times throughout my career and somehow came out unscathed. I mean, he was only 2 years on, and look what happens, God willing, he makes a full recovery and he can get back out there. Dude, that's the bravest thing I'll probably ever witness in my life. That'd be awesome. Even if he just survives and, we could just sit down and have a conversation about it sometime. I'd absolutely love that too, But
I mean, because it's the individuals like that. Sometimes even just desk duty until they're ready to go hit the streets. Do us justice a lot of times too. So
yeah, oh yeah, I mean, especially for his family. I mean, he's a freaking baby. I mean, I've got my daughter is almost 10 years older than him. I'm like, oh my God, how'd that happen? So I think about that, and I think about my own. My youngest is only 20. And it's like, man, that could be any one of us at any given time, So, but
yes, sir.
So God bless him, man. God bless you too, man. Love this kind of stuff. So
me too.
Let's pick another time for when we can do this again, and we're gonna get who on board, whether she likes it or not. So
Natalie,
next time.
So she says,
yeah, and then we'll once her book's out there, we'll do a little book read with her as well too.
I think that'd be wonderful. Heck yeah. Maybe we'll do 2 back-to-back because her should be out within a week and a half or 2 weeks at the most. And she can actually show you her book cover, and then I'll be in the shadows. There will be no more Chris Hoyer and Michael Bagby. It's just going to be the Natalie show.
Whatever.
So.
I mean, she puts her name on the book, but don't want to appear.
I know, right? I'm going to, she says.
Next time, schedule it and I'll be there, but I have to have preparation time. Take time to look good.
Hey, how many times you hear that from the cadets that you train all the time, Chris? Oh, yeah, next time.
Next time, yeah.
I'll participate next time.
There is no next time. Tomorrow is not promised to anybody, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, my brother, I will catch up with you soon. Thanks for all the love and the reading, and we'll pick up on chapter 8 next time, I think.
Yes, sir. I'll remember it this time.
All right.
Maybe it's because we just I discuss some of the things because I've already read it. So sometimes, like while in the readings, I like kind of jump ahead and things like that a little bit. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much, man. And you guys stay safe, stay blessed, and all things. And Natalie, you better be on here soon. I'm gonna put a countdown of like days, like how people count down for Christmas. Countdown till Natalie's appearance. You guys stay safe, stay blessed. I love you, brother, man. Thank you
All right,
so
man.
much
Love you
for
back,
being
man.
on.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Later.